Now we will see in detail the reports section. When you get into the reports section, you will see the list of campaigns from which you can get a report. In order to get your campaign listed here, your campaign must have been active at least for a while. You can see campaigns that are running right now or campaigns that are paused, or you can also see campaigns that are finished or have been cancelled as long as they have been running for a while. So something that you can do if this list becomes larger is that you can search by name. So for example, you can enter a part of the name like camp, and then all the campaigns matching this part will be listed here. You can also enable this switch to see the campaigns that have been archived. In this case, we have this Survey 1 campaign, which is a campaign from long time ago, so we decided to archive it, so it's not um, taking place in the campaigns section, so we have room for the newer campaigns that we are running. And then if we want to get a report for this old campaign, we can enable this switch and get the campaigns that have been archived listed here. Okay, so let's get to the survey campaign here and let's see the reports that we have. So we have three reports: call details, campaign analysis, and input results. The input results report is a report that is not always available. This is only available when the campaign is using a call flow that is asking for DTMF input. If the campaign is not asking for user input in any part of the call flow, then this report will not be visible here. If you are, for example, just transferring the call to your queue, then there are no input from your users and this report will not be visible. So let's go to the call details report and see what we have here. Here, this is a report in which we will see call by call what happened with these calls. So for example, we can see the number that we called, we can see the the date and time in which the call started, the result if the call was answered, if it was not answered, if there was an error. If the call was answered, we can see if the call was answered by a human or by an answering machine. We can see when the call ended, why the call ended. In this case, call flow complete means that the call flow reached the end of the call reached the end of the call flow. The last action in the call flow was executed. It's also possible to see hang up here, for example, which means that the user dropped the call before reaching the end. You can see duration, and you can see here the data obtained from the user for this specific call. So this campaign, for example, has two questions. For the first question, the user answered with digit 2, and for the second question, the user responded with 1. So we can see here all the details, and also this is not the full list of columns that you have. You can enable an additional columns that we have hidden here. For example, you can enable the attempt and you can see if this is the first attempt or the second attempt to a specific number. You can see variables, so you can see the variables associated with each record. And for example, if you want to see all the calls, um, the different attempts for a number, you can add filters here. You can specify number, and here, for example, we have a call which was not answered, so we copy the number here, and we can see what happened with this call. Okay, the first time the call was not answered, but the second time the call was answered by a human, so the call was considered a success. Um, we can see another call which resulted in an error. So we filter the call by number, we select the number, and here we also see the first call and the second call to this number. Uh, There are many different columns that you can enable or disable. You can also reorder the columns, move the number to the end here, for example, or move it back to the top. Uh, you can hide or show columns. You can add filters and for example, you can see the result, calls answered, and then you see that you have calls answered by human or answering machine, so you can decide to only get the calls that are human answer, and you can see all calls that have this answer type. Uh, you have many filters here that you can see to narrow down your search. You have the export button here, which lets you get all the details. All this information that you see here can be exported to a CSV file, so you can take that into, for example, Excel or whatever tool you need, and process it in a different way. Um, this call details report is also very useful for troubleshooting purposes, because when you see calls that are not getting out, are not reaching the destination, the SIP response field here will give you information of what happened with that call. If the call was rejected by the SIP trunk with a forbidden error, for example, that means that maybe your account is running out of credit, or maybe you are trying to reach a country that is forbidden. So this information is very useful for troubleshooting and understanding what's going on with calls that are not progressing. The next report we have here is the campaign analysis. This is a report that gives you summarized information. It's very powerful because it lets you uh, check the information in a very easy to understand chart, and this gives you insightful information for your business. For example, you can see here hour by hour the progress of the campaign. This means hour by hour you can see the percentage of numbers that have been contacted and the percentage of numbers that are still pending. Uh, you can also, this information that you see here, you can also show the details, and you will see um, the details in this grid hour by hour what's happening with these calls. And this information can also be exported to a CSV file to process further this information with an external tool. The PA chart here on the right is showing the status at the very end of the period that we are analyzing here. So you have the hour by hour detail, and you have the picture at the end of the period. Okay, so here in the contact progress you have more detailed information. This is more or less the same than here, but it's more um, detail in for example, you can see not only if a contact, if a number was contacted or not, but you can also see the result of that contact, if the call was successful, if the call uh, was considered a failure, or if the call still needs to be retried later, if the number was in a blacklist and was not called because of that. Well, you can see all these details here, and as usual, the picture at the end of the period that we are analyzing. This call flow diagram is very useful to understand how calls are splitting up in different categories. For example, we have 1,800 calls here, and you can see from there how many have been answered, how many have been uh, busy, how many have not been answered, and the number of calls that result in an error. And for the answer calls, you can also see human answers and answering machine. So you can see these lines that give you because of how wide these lines are, you can understand the weight that each category has. Okay, so you can see here all the flow until the call reaches the final status: success, retry pending, or failure. Um, you have lots of metrics that you can use in a summarized way. Like for example, here you can see how many calls are answered, busy, not answered, or resulting in an error. You can see the percentages of calls that have been answered by an answering machine or answered by a human. You can see how calls ended uh, in, during different hours. The call outcome, that means if the call was considered as a success or failure, or a retry is still pending. And here you can see the status code of SIP. This is the value returned by the PBX server or the SIP trunk for the call that we are making. All this information is always available in the chart and also in this grid that we can export. And these charts that we have here, maybe not all of them are useful for you. Then you can get here and you can decide to hide some of them and only keep the ones that you want, or you can also reorder the charts and put them in a different order. Uh, this configuration is completely up to you. Uh, you can define the layout if you want one chart per row or you want two charts per row. You can define how you want to group this information. Here it's grouped hour by hour, but if you are running your campaign during many days, maybe you want to group by day, or you want to group by week. In this case, it's the same. If you are grouping by week and you click on the week, you get the date. If you click on the date, you get hour by hour. So you can go deeper and narrow down your search. And you can specify here the range, um, the date range for your campaign. You can specify that you want yesterday, last 7 days, well, whatever. Well, and all this information, all these rules that you have here to control the charts are also something that you can apply to the input results uh, report. So here you have the same um, ability of hiding or showing charts, etc. What do we see in the input result report? Well, in first place, we can see this diagram that lets you see how users are answering to the first question in first place, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then these users going to the second question and how they are answering the second question between 1 and 2. And here we have information of the percentage of each answer. Here we have a first question of having 5 options. You can see the percentage that users answer with each option. This is the chart at the end of the period, and you can see the information also hour by hour. And the same for the second question. Here you have only 2 options, and you can see hour by hour what the users have answered to these questions. Here you can see the information at the end of the period. So this is all the information that you can get from the reports.